Today, I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to introduce you all to three industry leaders who are excelling in the world of data analytics. These three impressive women will share their career opportunities and journeys with you, as well as their advice for succeeding in the field. The first panelist I would like to introduce is Gayatri Narayan. Gayatri is the Senior Vice President of Digital Products and Solutions at PepsiCo, leading global digital transformation across PepsiCo's value chain. Her role drives profitable growth and operational efficiencies through digitization of PepsiCo's supply chain, logistics, revenue, and sales strategy. Prior to joining PepsiCo, Gayatri was a general manager at Microsoft across office and business application groups. She has held general manager positions at Amazon, Publicis Group, Sears Holding, and Thomson Reuters. Originally from India, Gayatri has a master's in computer science from the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign and an MBA from the Booth School of the University of Chicago. Outside of work, she enjoys cooking, traveling, the outdoors, and supporting community efforts focused on education and sustainability. I would now like to welcome Gayatri.
Thank you, Mary. I'm super excited to be here as a part of the WiDS panel. I wanted to take a few minutes to share my life experiences as well as lead the panel with some advice to the team. So like Mary mentioned, I have a fairly diverse background from an education standpoint, have an undergrad and a master's in computer science and also an MBA. And really what the education gave me is the skill sets to solve intractable business problems using technology and data science. From a professional experience standpoint, it was really a very diverse journey that I went through. I've touched different industries like financial services, e-commerce, retail, media and entertainment, as well as software, enterprise software technologies, and now CPG. And through this journey, the key things are not only exposure to different areas and different technologies, but the crux of it is how do we leverage machine learning, analytics, and data to unlock the value across these industries that I've been a part of. Now, one of the things I wanted to share is what I call a signature experience. This goes back to the time I was at Amazon, and the team was working towards updating the pricing algorithm for Amazon globally. It was a massive data science exercise, something that had never been done before, something that I'm very proud of, not only for myself, but for the entire organization. We were able to run massive nationwide experiments to determine what are the key drivers of pricing and got to accuracy levels that had never been heard of before. So I wanted to share this experience as a way to really emphasize the importance of data science in how businesses operate and the fact that a lot of things that were considered impossible are actually possible nowadays. I do want to touch on a little bit about, based on my life experiences and professional journey that I've been on, is what are the three pieces of advice that I want to share with the participants today. First one is relationships are invaluable. It is so important to nurture relationships right from the get-go and also to make an effort that they're mutually beneficial. So set up your support groups, your communities, your mentors, your sponsors. Work hard to not only learn from these groups, but also to add value to each one of them. The second one is take risks to differentiate yourself. And this requires embracing a growth mindset. What this means is we all need to put an effort to stand out. We're all unique in so many ways, and as it relates to the professional skill sets as well as the value we bring to teams and organizations, it's always about that differentiated value, and it's important to be able to invest in it, articulate it, and demonstrate it. And the third one is around effective communication. everything we do is based on communication, and it is so important to be very effective, precise, not only to get your story across, to influence your stakeholders in organizations that you work in, but also to be able to negotiate and continue to be able to have a very meaningful impact in the things that you do. So those are the three things that I wanted to share with you all. And again, once again, thank you for having me, and I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Gayatri, for sharing your experiences and your invaluable advice, especially around how important relationships are, how to invest in them, taking risks, and also providing value and effective communication. I would now like to introduce our next panelist, Victoria Lewis-Bogantrenko, a Wharton graduate of the MBA program from '94. Tori is the SVP of UnitedHealth Networks at UnitedHealthcare. During her more than 20-year career at United, Tori has provided leadership across multiple functions, strongly influencing the use of data and analytics to optimize healthcare affordability, drive consumer-centric innovation, and support business growth. From building provider networks to leading healthcare affordability teams that create breakthrough digital consumer experiences, Tori enables employers and individuals to meet their unique healthcare goals. Prior to UnitedHealthcare, Tori spent time at Oxford Health Plans, Deloitte, and Chemical Banking Corporation's healthcare finance team. She holds a BA in International Politics and Economics from Middlebury College and an MBA from the Wharton School. Tori also serves as a Wharton Senior Fellow with Wharton Customer Analytics, working as a mentor on analytics projects with current Penn students, and I would like to thank her for her time in doing that. So please join me in welcoming Tori.
Thank you, Mary, very much for that warm introduction. I'd like to give you all just a sense for my background and then share some advice that I have for you as you think about your own professional careers and how you see yourselves moving forward. I started off, actually, my education is a liberal arts background. I got a Bachelor of Arts in International Politics and Economics, which to me really blended some very special interests that I had, both in learning more about the world and the dynamics around our world, as well as quantitative skills, which I really had a mindset for, and that very much influenced then, once I left school, how I thought about my career. And you'll see in my early days, my career was very much quantitatively oriented, whether I was in finance or management consulting. I learned a tremendous amount and built up my analytical chops in the finance world, and certainly in understanding how to influence organizations to drive greater productivity, how to support them from a strategic perspective, and how to assimilate data in a way that would help them make the right choices. I then came to Wharton and got my MBA, and that was really where I went through a fair amount of self-reflection, because while I had spent up to that point the vast majority of my career in an analytical orientation, what I realized was my preference towards business and industry in the healthcare space. I'd always been in healthcare, but what I wanted to do was actually move into industry as opposed to being in a function that was incredibly valuable, but really kind of was on the outer edges supporting that industry. And so I did spend a fair amount of time talking to my professors and colleagues and others, and then decided to make the choice to go into healthcare and join a startup organization right out of business school. What that's done has actually enabled me to open up interesting opportunities and doors that may not have otherwise been available to me, just because of the depth of understanding and my ability to assimilate information into a fact-based strategy or approach. It has allowed me actually to pick up new projects and traverse the Oxford and now United Healthcare organizations in ways that have meant I've been able to engage around building our provider networks, driving affordability strategies, building and launching consumer and technical products and product offerings in the external marketplace. So what I would say is that that entire data orientation has actually been incredibly useful to me in terms of creating opportunities. I want to share 3 pieces of advice with you all. And the first, and I think most important for you in terms of where you are right now, is to bet on yourself. And what I mean by that is have confidence in who you are. You are in this room. You are learning at this very advanced and challenging organization, and you are working in a space that is incredibly innovative and new. And I want you to think about what that means and says about who you are and what your priorities are. Bet on that. Choose the work that ignites your passions. I certainly, and I just shared with you my journey, I certainly have benefited from that. You want to spend time in places, even if you feel like you are taking a risk, do so in an informed way and spend time in those career opportunities that excite you. And don't hesitate to take on a new or uncharted challenge. And what I mean by that is don't be afraid to join a space or to enter a space that is unfamiliar to you, because you've got confidence or should have confidence in the skills that you have built. Those opportunities, frankly, are where you grow the most, where you pick up new skills and learnings and build really meaningful relationships. So that would be the first set of advice I would give you. Again, bet on who you are and what you can offer. The next one, and you'll hear this theme, I think, throughout your time in this conference, is to invest in your mentors. Also invest in what is now an emerging term called your allies. I have found that my network is incredibly helpful, both in an informal way as well as in the more intentional and formal approaches. And I've leveraged those informal relationships as I've moved throughout roles and picked up new opportunities to guide me, to help ground me, and to help me understand how I might leverage an opportunity in a way that will advance my career. The other thing that I will say, and you might be surprised to see this, is even after you've had a layoff, and I was victim of a layoff actually early on in my career, I found that networking was incredibly energizing. And here's what I mean by that. You get to do it all day long. You get to connect with people and talk with people and learn and engage around new opportunities all day long. And if your network is strong, both the formal one and the informal one, those connections lead to new connections and new opportunities to explore where your career might take you. So again, network or networking after maybe a not so great event, an event that you might find challenging, can actually be incredibly energizing. And then the last piece of advice I will give you, and this might be a little forward-looking, but I want you to really be mindful of this as well. When you are in a position where you're balancing work and family, know that that juggle is real. And what I mean by that is treat that, I have personally learned to treat that like a business problem. Don't hesitate to build your cavalry, to call in the experts, whether that is family and friends or professionals, to help you balance or achieve the right balance between work and home. And don't be afraid to ask for what you need at work. There has been, I think, a tremendous shift, even in the last 2 years, and certainly in the last many, around openness and support for people who need to balance work and home, and certainly an openness to ensuring that individuals have the ability to do that. The days of, I'll just say, slipping away or sneaking out to go to your kid's softball game or their end of year class party, those are much more transparent these days. And don't be afraid to ask for what you need, because the reality is that work and home are now blending in a way that is much more, I think, kind of uniform and transparent than ever before. And then the last bit that I would say just around managing this juggle is you will have opportunities, particularly given the skills that you have and that you offer, to change your role, to pick up new projects or programs, to relocate for a promotion. Don't opt out of those just because of the challenge of restructuring what I would call your home team, that support system. In fact, that support system is something that you can replicate in other locations. And certainly, again, treat it like your business problem. There is certainly plenty of opportunity to create that support system, and it shouldn't mean that you have to opt out of a career opportunity because you're afraid of making that change.
Another enlightening presentation from Tori Lewis-Bogantrenko. Thank you, Tori, for sharing your journey and advice, especially around empathetic business leaders who are now helping to balance work and home life. I'm excited to introduce our final panelist, Jenny Wolski. Jenny is the Senior Vice President of Omnichannel Experience at Petco. She is a transformational and innovative executive focused on deeply understanding and correlating employee and customer experiences to drive business performance. In her role, Jenny is responsible for ensuring Petco is pet parents' most trusted partner in caring for their overall health and wellness of their pets. Focused on turning insights into action, Jenny leads enterprise-wide programs to evolve retail strategy and operations, strengthen omnichannel services, and enhance employee and customer experience and loyalty. Jenny is passionate about creating a workplace that prioritizes diversity, inclusion, and belonging. She's a key member of Petco's Diversity and Inclusion Council and is also the founder and executive sponsor of the Petco Pride Employee Resource Group. Prior to joining Petco, Jenny oversaw corporate partnerships at the City of San Diego and held roles in special events and fundraising at Scripps Health. Jenny holds a BS in Business Administration from the University of Florida and serves as an advisory board member for Wharton Customer Analytics. I would now like to welcome Jenny as our final panelist.
Hi, everyone, and thanks, Mary, for the great introduction. My name is Jenny Wolski, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Omnichannel Experience at Petco. I live in San Diego, California with my family, and I have 2 dogs, a bearded dragon, and fish, which is something that we always like to share with people at Petco. I'm not very good at work-life balance, but I've always made space for family, friends, exercise, and outdoors. I started my career in San Diego in healthcare and learned everything I could about science and technology in the medical field. I took a leap into working in government and learned about fire rescue helicopters, the police department, library, and park and rec, and it was a very exciting experience to work in politics. And then I came to Petco 11 years ago. I started as a marketing manager in what we call the consumables business. And I moved up through the marketing department by learning everything I could about the business, raising my hand for different opportunities, and being relentless about using data to put the customer first, create impactful campaigns, and go-to-market plans. I worked on a lot of different areas within the marketing department and eventually became the vice president of marketing, working for our chief marketing officer. And then about 7 years into my marketing career, my boss came to me and asked me what I wanted to do next. And I told her that I was really interested in running a business. So I became the general manager of the pet services business, working for the chief merchant. And this was another really big learning opportunity for me. It included leveraging customer data to focus on making the biggest impact around acquiring and retaining customers within the business. This was the first time that my career connected so closely with people on the front line, and I loved it. I was then asked to lead what we called retail strategy and experience and lead the retail transformation for our organization, working for the chief stores officer, which we call our stores pet care centers. The intent of that role was to transform the people culture on the front line. We knew that if we made our people happy, which we call our partners, that they would then in turn make our customers happy. So this was all about leveraging data and the voice of the partner and the voice of the customer to transform the experience for people and to deliver an amazing experience for pet parents. It was one of the best career moves of my life. Finally, I was promoted to the role that I have today, which is the Senior Vice President of Omnichannel Experience, working for our CEO. And this is a very exciting role because I get to lead a customer-first culture through creating differentiated, connected experiences and also running our recurring revenue programs for Petco. Again, my role revolves around data and driving change, and I couldn't do that without the people around me. In this role also, relevant to this group, I get to partner shoulder to shoulder with the leader of our enterprise analytics and data science group. So everything that we do today revolves around it. I also serve on the Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Council at Petco, and am the founder and sponsor of LGBTQ+ at Petco. And my leadership style is to lead with love and data. Now, I get to share 3 pieces of advice with you. And this is something that I've learned along the way, and I have to say that I continue to learn and evolve myself personally every day as well. So I'll share the advice that I have as of today. The first piece of advice is be open. Be open to new ideas. Be open to different perspectives than your own. Be open to feedback. Don't be afraid of new opportunities. Listening, learning, asking questions of people at every level can truly help you formulate some of the best ideas, strategies, plans, and even your own career journey. The second piece of advice I have is believe in yourself. It's not easy. Everybody, every day, questions the decisions they make, questions their voice, questions their role, but sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. You are in charge of your own destiny. No one will create your journey for you. Start by talking to yourself like you would talk to your best friend, and keep it up until you start to see you through other people's eyes. And my final piece of advice is be you. You are unique. You have your own story that sets you apart from everyone else. You have the strength and the passion that no one else does. So being you, even if it doesn't always feel like you fit in or it doesn't always make sense, is the right way to be, because then you will lead your career journey and the decisions that you make for your life, and you'll be excited and passionate, and you'll be your authentic self in everything that you do. Thank you.
Thank you to Jenny, Gayatri, and Tori for sharing such thoughtful and impactful pieces of advice. I now have the pleasure of moderating the Q&A with all 3 panelists. Be sure to submit your questions into the chat, and I look forward to a lively conversation. All right. We're going to welcome back all of our panelists. We have Tori, Jenny, and Gayatri, I think, is going to be on in just a minute. There you are. You guys can take yourselves off mute. Nice to see you all. Thank you so much for that, all of that powerful advice that you provided. I'm going to have to go back and make sure I capture every one of those pieces. I really appreciate what you've shared with everyone, and I'm sure people were just as excited as I was, regardless of where you are in your journey. So much of that advice was just so poignant, and I really loved some of the key aspects that you guys talked about in terms of the juggle is real, believe in yourself. Jenny really took to heart that, you are in control of your career journey. So I think that, many of those pieces of advice should be written down, and we can put Post-it notes near our laptops. But before we, get into some of the other questions from the audience, I thought what I'd start out with is you all have a wide variety of teams that are reporting to you, whether it's in the pet industry, CPG, healthcare, and I think that's great. We have that diversity here to offer to our attendees. Could you, each one of you, maybe pinpoint where you think the most exciting opportunities are in data and analytics in terms of, we could talk about career growth, but I think people would be really interested in maybe the transformation that's going to be happening in your industries, because I know the people on the call here or the webinar can really, understand what type of skill sets they need. So maybe let's talk about where you think your industry is going in terms of data and analytics. Let's fast forward maybe 2 years from now. So any one of you want to take that one first?
I can step in. This is
okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Gayatri.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in terms of where things are going, it's hyperscale automation, right? Where can we empower the decision making to be automated? And this has a direct impact not only on the profit, because productivity improves, but also just in terms of the revenue growth. And so that's one area where we're absolutely focusing quite a bit. As mentioned earlier, with Internet of Things, there's a lot of data and insights that we can harness, but it's like, what do we do with that? And so we're certainly emphasizing the hyperscale automation as one area. The second one is also personalization at scale. So how do we make sure we're serving our end consumers in a way that is relevant to what they're interested in and their likes and dislikes? And that is also possible now. And we can get very nuanced, not only in our marketing, but also in our product offerings. So that's another opportunity that PepsiCo is investing in.
I'll chime in a little bit from the context of the healthcare space. And Gayatri, I think I'm going to echo some of your comments as well. I think that there is an opportunity to take the data that is linked to, frankly, all of the innovation that is occurring in technology. So think about wearables, whether they're consumer-oriented wearables or more medically oriented in nature, but taking the data from those capabilities and enabling an individual, or in my case, a health insurance company, to use that information to evaluate value and impact. That's one very emerging and significant area. And then, to be really honest, the other, from a health insurance perspective, is understanding consumer experience. That is not new, but it is certainly new in the health insurance space. Let's be honest, we're not exactly known for being consumer friendly, although it is an area that we're very much focused on getting better at. And so my point here is there are new types of analytics, new types of technologies that are influencing how we think about managing our business. The opportunity for all of us is to bridge the gap between the technical and the analytic to what a business person needs to know. What is the punchline? How do I get them comfortable with the data? And how do I help them draw conclusions from it? And I think that is where being very creative and knowledgeable from an analytic perspective will allow many people to impact this space.
Yeah, and I will build on what you two have said in the space around pets and the customer in retail. So, personalization is something that customers, they no longer just want, they expect it from companies. And so we are able to leverage data and data science to be able to not only connect the experience for the customer, but to personalize it in a way that really helps them simplify their lives. And so we're able to see, what products you're buying, what services you use, what's happening with your pet. and connect those things to just make it easier to take the best care of your pet. And ideally, this is something that also, extends beyond pet care into healthcare too in the future. I know that's coming, and I'm really, really excited for that, because when you think about, healthcare for humans, it's complicated. And to be able to bring all of the data together around a human, all the different physicians you go to and tests you take and all of those things, and have it in one place will overall help the way that, people are diagnosed, and will be able to really help you take the best care and be the best advocate of your own care. And then the other thing that is really exciting is really around the democratization of data. And so, we're still in the early stages of operationalizing analytics and data science across industries. But I think one of the most exciting things is really around increasing the development of no-code and low-code platforms for analytics and data science. And as these platforms mature, they will help us further democratize the use of data across functions, which will really help smaller companies as well as legacy companies who are trying to transform.
Wow, we could just end right on that, you guys, all three of you, and how we connected healthcare, pet care, and consumer products all together. And one thing I want to make note of is, especially as you talked about, no code, low code democratization, really for anyone in the audience or those who are listening, post this broadcast, it's where everyone is converging into the middle. You'll be hearing more throughout the conference, data scientists and these algorithms that people are doing, and the data, how important data is. So you have to lean into understanding what models to use and potentially the code, and then the data, but then where you're solving it, and then being passionate, as you all have talked about in your industry, of what you want to solve for that end consumer. So thank you so much for talking about that. We're going to pivot just a bit. We're going to have time for about one more question. Well, you have maybe two more questions, but this question has been voted up to the top, so I really want to give it to you. What advice would you have for those who are launching in data science and a data science career later, and how would you best leverage prior non-data science experiences? So this is more about upskilling, reskilling. I think this is, what we really would like to see as well. So could you guys maybe speak to that? And any one of you could take that first. Does anyone want to talk to that first?
I'll actually jump in here. There's a fresh experience, very fresh in my mind. What is critical about data science is that it needs to be grounded in the business problems we're trying to solve. And sometimes, we use these analytical models and we get to outputs that don't really reinforce a business decision. So it's very, very critical to ground yourself as what is the business problem I'm trying to address, and what's the logical hypothesis that I need to apply to get to the answers. So from that perspective, prior experiences, whether it's in marketing or finance or predictive demand forecasting, what have you, is very, very relevant, because you understand what the outputs need to look like and what's reality and how to validate it. In terms of the skilling and the upskilling, the beauty of it, and it goes back to the point Jenny made, is the learning curve isn't as steep anymore. There are a lot of tools that are available, which is about how do you leverage the science but not expose yourself to the complexities of the syntax and so on and so forth. So multiple options are available for leaders to get that skill set under their belt. And honestly, it's that combination of business knowledge and this new skills that leads to that incremental value.
But before I'm going to throw one more question out, so maybe Victoria and Jenny, you can build on that. Gayatri, excellent answer. And this relates to what Gayatri just talked about, being grounded in business curiosity, business question. And that is, how do you recommend breaking down data silos in older companies where people are so used to doing everything manually and are fearful other new tool, that the new tools will potentially eliminate their role? That will be the last question that we'll be able to answer. So would Victoria or Jenny, would you like to take that?
I'm happy to start with that.
Okay.
So we actually have just centralized our enterprise data analytics and data science organization. And, now data is more important than ever. And so what we look at is more around how do we solve business problems and how do we connect our data science experts closely into the businesses. So it starts to break down the silos in terms of, you work in a department over here and the business works in a department over there. We have brought the two together. And so as a business leader, I can't do my job without the data analytics and data science partners that are on my team. They literally are the ones that are driving our strategy and driving our business forward. And so making sure that you forge those relationships with the business, learn everything you can about the business, and become that person or that group that the business leaders truly depend on to be successful.
Thank you. And Tori, we're going to have to close up quickly, but do you have anything that you might be able to add?
No, I think those were fantastic and very complete answers. I think the only thing that I would just add is, as it relates to assigning or aligning the data and the business leads, what's really important about that is to understand that there are going to be, as there would be with any change, there are going to be challenges that are linked to that. And that's part of the process. I'm sure each one of us, Jenny, Gayatri, and myself, can speak to major projects that we've led that inflicted pain on all of us. But the reality is that through those challenges, you learn a lot about each other. Jenny, I love your comment. You lead with love and you lead with data. And in that way, you can actually get to a really amazing outcome through, frankly, leveraging people with very different skill sets.
Thank you, and that brings in that whole diversity aspect, leading people, and we need people with different skill sets to tackle these large problems. Thank you, Jenny, Gayatri, Tori, for sharing your experiences and advice. I know that attendees have benefited from this. All three of these beautiful and energetic women will be joining me at the networking session and mentorship session that follows at 1:15. So please join if you'd like to ask more direct questions to these great panelists. And we will continue the conversation then.